Welcome to the Wise Women Podcast and our debut season, Wisdom's Discovery, Finding Your Center at the Edge. Because some moments in life call us to our edge and then beckon us to expand beyond it. In this season, we dive into the shared experiences of 20 remarkable women. And through honest conversation, we explore together the moments that shape us, stretch us, undo us, and ultimately return us to ourselves. I'm Katherine Jelinek, and this is the Wise Women Podcast. Hello, everyone. It's my delight to introduce you to Sophia Cole. She is a professional EOS implementer and in 2 months is going to turn that into certified, right?
Yay.
Yay. Congratulations.
Yay. Thank
And
you.
owner of SoCo Solutions and a certified executive coach. Welcome, Sophia. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me, Catherine. I really appreciate it.
I'm really excited to hear your story. So, Sophia, where does your story begin?
So I guess I'll have to take you back quite a bit back. I immigrated to the U.S. as a 19-year-old refugee from former Soviet Union. Specifically, I grew up in Baku, Azerbaijan, which is one of the republics. So we immigrated with $200 in my pocket, 2 suitcases, barely spoken English, and really it was an interesting process leading up to it and, kind of assimilating here. The reason why I didn't speak any English was because when I was and I don't remember whether it was late middle school, early high school, but my English teacher at the time told me that she didn't think I had ability or I was going to be able to learn another language. It's so funny. I don't remember what I had for breakfast yesterday, but I remember that conversation with her, hey, I know you're trying, you're a great student. This is just not your gift. You don't have to try so hard. And so when you're a kid and you hear something like that, you believe it from a person who you think is authority and understands what's going on. And so I didn't learn the language. So it was a tough transition, but I landed in Memphis, Tennessee, and I've been here ever since. I love being in the South. I love the city, everything about it. And so I ended up graduating here locally at the University of Memphis and made it my home. I now have 2 kids. My daughter's graduating high school this year.
Congratulations.
My son, sophomore in high school. Thank you. Yes, it's exciting transition, but that's kind of where my story started, I guess.
Can you believe that your daughter's nearly the age that you were when you moved?
I think about it a lot because I grew up really early. Where I was, there was a lot of displacement. 91, I think, is where Azerbaijan was in war with Armenia over a territory. And so I was in the midst of seeing all of that. There was a lot of violence. Our healthcare system was broken. So when my mother, while we were there, had a heart attack, there was 3 or 4 ambulances before she was able to get hospitalized. And then after that, for her to get care, I was 17, 18 at the time, I had to go to the hospital and literally bribe people, put money in there. And there was just different kind of environments. And so I grew up so fast. And when I think about her and all the worries I have with her moving away so far for college and all the things, I did I'm glad you asked that question because it does bring perspective. As mothers, we worry.
Yes.
But I know she'll be fine. She's a great kid. It's crazy.
Yeah. Keep giving us a little more context because I was able to get some from you about what you were growing up in and the tension that escalated and why you had to be a refugee. But share that here with everybody else too, because that was a bit more of an eye-opener. I didn't know what was required to be even considered a refugee and the things that you shared about Azerbaijan at the time.
Yeah, so we, because of the conflict and everything that entailed, we lived close to a Russian military base, and there was a lot of uprising. And, my family were part Jewish. We have some Ukrainian, there were Russians. There were like a little bit of everything. And so we just didn't feel like for my future that we could stay where we were. I never felt that way growing up. It was something that happened so fast in like just a few years. Things have
Mm.
changed so dramatically where we were in the middle of quite a bit of violence, a lot of prejudice, and there was just a lot of things going on. And so we already submitted some of the paperwork to be considered. And I'm not sure what the process is now, but at the time you submit paperwork to American consulate. We thought we were in the queue, we were going to have a few more years. And when this happened, the conflict, that really propelled and escalated everything. So in a matter of, I don't remember exactly. I don't want to lie to you, but it was really quick. 5 months, maybe 6. We were like set to go. We traveled to Moscow for an
Wow.
interview in the American embassy, and so all of
Hmm.
that. It's a quite a bit of process. At the time, what that meant is you were limited in what you can bring with you. At the time, it was $200 per person and 2 suitcases of a certain size, and there's certain things you could and could not bring. And so, we were not rich by any means. We were not poor either. We were solid, kind of lower to middle class. And
Mhm.
so we had to leave everything behind for the most
So
part.
what happened to the other money that you had that was not the
We
$600 you
left
brought?
some to the family. Like it was just, my parents had some cousins, some neighbors. It was awful. And, I didn't really
Wow.
realize what that meant until I was much older, what that meant for my parents, because there was excitement because I knew I was going to have a different future, right? I had a chance to do different things that I knew I couldn't do where I was. And so that's what was for me. But now, as an adult myself, I was about the same age as my parents were, actually a little bit younger when they moved, like leaving all of that behind. My father was he had a hobby, photography hobby. So he had his old processor where he processed photographs in the darkroom, whatever. And so we had a lot of family pictures. And that's what I remember the most about the process is him burning those pictures. I told you I didn't want to cry.
I didn't know.
I, and I remember seeing it, like I remember seeing it so clearly, and I remember being sad about it. But again, the excitement of the future ahead and what it meant for us. Like if I had to go through that now as an adult, not speaking the language because they didn't speak English.
Your parents didn't.
My parents didn't know. No, none of us spoke English. Like not knowing what it's going to be like, really, I mean, it's something. They live everything behind. And obviously people immigrate from much worse situations, circumstances where maybe they don't have as much to leave behind, but we did.
Mhm.
It was definitely, and sometimes you just don't think about it. Like been here 31 years. It's going to be 32 years in
Mhm.
October. But stay who I am. You can't leave that behind.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Wow. How interesting to be coming up on all those different perspective anniversaries of like your daughter being similar age to you then and you being similar age to your parents and just like that kind of change of chairs and viewpoint. It's intense. So then fast forward back into the story of where you're here. You're in Memphis and you're
Yes.
19 and so you've enrolled in college. But you $200 in your pocket isn't gonna get you. So
Yeah. I mean, that enrolling in college didn't happen for another year. So
okay.
we moved here and we lived in government housing, government subsidy, food stamps, no car. I could not drive.
Hmm.
It was, there were a lot of refugee-based volunteer organizations that step in and help. And so I didn't know how to type. I didn't learn how to type, and so my English was terrible. And so there were organizations that take you to, English school, organizations that drove me to like a vacation school to learn how to type, people who take you to the doctors, and all of that. We didn't have good healthcare system. Just to give you context, when I was later on getting my MBA, which was down the road the country where I'm from, Azerbaijan, was at the time considered the most corrupt country in the world. Okay. And so you couldn't do anything without bribing people or whatever. So just for we didn't have a kind of money. So my parents needed health care. As a matter of fact, my mother was very sick. She ended up having to have open heart bypass surgery a few months after we moved. So there was just
A few months after you moved here.
a few months after we moved. So she did not speak any English. I was slowly getting there, not quite there, you know.
Wow. So how do you even navigate those appointments? Did you have a translator with you?
We either took bus, and there were volunteer organizations primarily for local Jewish community services, because we were part Jewish, that helped us. There were other volunteer organizations that help refugees. You know, at the time they were engaged, and then, you know, it's a lot. It's a lot because you're kind of all of a sudden you're somewhere where that's very, very different. You don't know how to navigate things. And then in Memphis, you know, it's not like a Chicago or New York where there's public transportation easily available. Yes, there are buses, but it's a kind of a suburban city, I guess. I mean, there is a metro area, but so it was a process. Yeah.
That's quite a bit.
Yeah.
So then your mom has surgery and you're helping her recover and you're learning English.
Right. And then so about a year after we moved, I did enroll into University of Memphis. And by then I got a driver's license, which at the time, you know, again, I was still learning English. I remember studying the textbook, translating almost every word with the manual dictionary, because we didn't have AI. There was no computer. I didn't have a computer. I mean, this is 31 years ago.
Every word in the manual dictionary.
So every word, I basically had to translate the whole book into Russian and then back, you know, so I can remember it to take the test. And that's how, like, I would say that's how first year and a half of college was for me.
My
I was
God,
sitting
it
in the
had to
front
take you
row with
like
a recorder,
5 times the time.
with a flipped dictionary. It took forever. I studied forever. But you know, it's very different when you're learning a language and you're not immersed in it versus when you're immersed in it. And so, but then, you know, once my mother recovered, I got a job. And so I was immersed, and, you know, I learned language very quickly to be able to communicate. But when I went to college a year later, it's a different language.
Yes.
And so I worked my butt off. And then I had a job because we didn't have the money. And so,
And share a little bit about what you said before to me before we pressed record about, you know, you really did, like, all the current conversation around this aside, but like you lived the American dream of come here and make something from nothing.
Yeah, I mean, when we talked about earlier, you know, this language of American dream, you know, a lot of people I hear, and I kind of get it, like, what does that even mean? But the American dream to me means that I can move to a country, start with nothing, and make something out of myself. You know, there were plenty of people that believed in me and helped. There were plenty of people that made fun of my accents, thought that I wasn't smart enough because I couldn't articulate what I was saying, plenty of prejudice, but there were plenty of people that helped, and I worked hard, and that dream that I had was actually superseded where I thought I was going to be. It's, you know, I mean, and part of that dream for someone like me, part of that dream was material.
Yeah.
Where I lived, we didn't always have running water. For a long period of time, we didn't have toilet tissue. I'm saying, like, I didn't use hygiene products until I moved here. I was 19. So part of it was the material things. And I'm not talking about like the pool that I now have. I'm talking about basic things, stability. So that's a big part of American dream, and being able to grow, you know. And then the other part of American dream is to be who you feel you could be, to change your mind, to change direction, to voice what you believe. Because in a lot of countries still, in a lot of instances, you can't do any of those things. You don't have resources. There are a lot of consequences to be able to do any of those things. And so that's what for me is American dream is it's freedom. And that's freedom. Okay, and that freedom means that I have a choice. around how I live and what I believe and who I am and how I act and what I do. I promised myself try not to cry. Here I am.
It's beautiful though.
Yeah.
It's important. I think that there's so much that can be taken for granted, and we can get lost in words and meanings. And then it's just to be reoriented in the value of those things like hygiene products and
Right.
running water, toilet tissue, stability, freedom to say what we actually think, even if we're judged for it. We're not going to be harmed for
I
it.
mean, the thing is, like, to me, if you're judging me, that's on you. And so that says something about you, not me. And so, yes, I want everybody to like me.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie. But ultimately, I have a choice to do things, like I just have a choice. And that's what the American dream means to me, is that I can make a living. I can become something out of nothing despite obstacles in my way. Because I know I had opportunities here that I never would have had where I was, or maybe even anywhere else. I've changed my careers. I've started things from nothing multiple times in different ways outside of what I described. And you can do it. And there are people to help you. And genuinely, I've had so many people who I was able to connect with and become friends, and we have nothing in common in how we grow up and who we are at all. So it comes down to the humanity that we all carry in our hearts.
And let's find our way back to the first piece that you gave, which was around, and in our not recorded part, but like the teacher who, imparted that perspective on you that you adopted back then, right?
Yeah.
Around your language capacity. Obviously, you've proved that wrong. Here you are doing an interview, therefore writing a chapter in English, and all the other businesses and things you've created here in the US, predominantly through the English language. I mean, what are your reflections today on on that moment and here now?
Yeah, I mean, it taught me a valuable lesson that I've carried on, hopefully, most of my life. The reason why I say that is because I don't think I realized what that was until later, that it was a lesson that I meant to learn. But the lesson is that in many ways, we don't know what we're capable of. Right. And so to really take well-meant feedback, input, word of advice, whatever that is, with a grain of salt. She was an expert. Obviously, I was a kid. I believed what she said. And without questioning, like, okay, I can't learn another language, so I'm not going to bother with it. And it had pretty dramatic impact on the transition that I had here in US without the language. And so I carry that with me in a couple of ways. One is, again, to really question our own mental frameworks that we create about what we can or cannot do. And also to be really careful with others when we tell them those things, because there is power in words. And if you're considered a leader, somebody who people look up to, and you say something, people take it as is. And so really, that what she told me, well-meaning, like I could tell that she really liked me. And, I remember when she had a baby, we went to visit her, like it was just like she was thinking she was helping me. And so being careful with what that means. I even carry that sometimes in the work that we do, or as I do as a EOS implementer and leadership coach, with assessment. Like I'm so careful about that, because I do know that a lot of these assessments are spot on and they bring a lot of insight, but they're also can be very limiting and self-imposing. So it's just something, I think, just having that experience, realizing, heck, she didn't know what she was talking about. And even if she was right, I was put in a situation where I had no choice. And heck, I can speak the language.
Yeah, you can.
So, you know what I mean? And I don't even think twice about it. I now think in English.
Wow.
I count in Russian, which is really bizarre.
That's great.
If I'm adding tips, it's in Russian. So, but that's, that's a big thing that I try to carry with me and remind myself often, to be careful with my words when I'm with my clients, to be careful with my words to myself and to my high schoolers that are still figuring out what are they.
This is a really, really big topic. that
Yeah.
your memory in that moment takes on is how our perspectives on ourselves or on the world around us really does shape our reality,
Mm-hmm.
and how important, how powerful that really is in life, And of course, all of us, I think this era of adults, we're all in therapy and coaching to deconstruct all the things that we took on that were not totally ours, that, the perspectives on reality and ourselves and our lives, and find what's more true. But your story, and it's just such a big underscore because you just had to, and so you did.
And you see that, and people do this all the time. I don't think they just give themselves credit when that's happening. And I've had other times in my life, now I can reflect back. I'm 51, I'm going to be 52 this year. Different other times where I've had to reinvent myself, either because I was forced to or because I wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, our self-preservation wants us to be a status quo, right? And so we all experience this. We want to do something, but something in our mind is wanting us to stay still, And so, especially if somebody's telling you that it's okay to stay still, you don't, you can just do this. You don't have. And so, I believe that every human being has potential that they have not uncovered yet for all kinds of different reasons, whether they haven't been exposed to it, haven't been motivated enough, or haven't had an opportunity. So there's, everything that I said is very true, but I also do feel in a lot of ways periods of privilege that I experienced that I know other people have not. Despite the story that I told you, I do feel there are other populations that don't even get that. And so when we say these things, I do think it's important to be very careful, because for some people, they never get an opportunity to even think about these things. They're just trying to survive every day. So it's just remembering and hopefully using that as a way to slow down our judgment, see how can we be of support to others instead of putting them down and reinforcing negative beliefs that they might already have you don't even know about.
I'm just the importance of being able to leave the space for a more unlimiting belief, right?
Mm-hmm. And I'm telling you this, but it's not easy. I'm not very
No.
good at it myself. I'm not trying to tell you that I know I haven't figured out and I don't have limiting beliefs. My limiting belief is I'm not good at business development. So I have a coach. I'm working for that. There are so many things, that if we find a way to release that, but it comes from how we were brought up, what people, all of these things there are many books written about it, but it's just I work really hard to remember it because I experienced that myself and I know what it feels like and the consequences it can have on our lives and on those around us.
So then, if you could, here in summary of the wisdom that you gained, if you could whisper something back to your 19-year-old or even younger than self, what would it be?
Ooh, if I could whisper something to my younger self was very stubborn. So
You went through a lot, so you kind of need some sort of driving.
Stubborn. What I would whisper to her is, I would whisper to her that you have it in you to go easy on yourself and to believe in yourself and in others around you more.
Mm-hmm.
I think, again, my circumstances, the violence that I've seen, the way people can be, all of the negative things that I've seen and experienced. I mean, it just takes a toll. And so, and it does take therapy, coaching, all kinds of things to really release that. And that's why I said she's very stubborn. I don't know if somebody would have whispered that to me at 19, if I would have heard it. But if there was a way to whisper it to my heart, not to my mind, because my mind would have said, but to my heart in a way that's intrinsic, that's what it would be. Yeah.
And is this something you feel like your daughter already knows?
Not yet.
Mm.
I see foundation of that there. She's, this next generation is very different. They're more informed, unfortunately and unfortunately, and she's much more aware of who she is than I was. It took me years to figure all of that out. And she is so much better, which is, as parents, what we want, right? We want the next generation to be better people, smart, whatever that means, better, whatever that is. But she knows who she is much more than I was. She knows um, things that excite her and things that don't. And I didn't know that until way later. I was just like, I'm just going to brute force through things. And she's like, well, that's not really my thing. Like, why do you think that? And she, it's not. And so I think the foundation's there, and I'm confident she'll get there. And she'll get there sooner than I did.
The whisper will hit sooner.
Yes, the whisper will hit sooner. And hopefully I'm a good whisperer. I try to be. Most of the time, I just really need to keep my mouth shut with her and just let her, like. But when I, let her do her own thing, experience thing her own way, and softly whisper it is when it sometimes lands.
Right in the heart, as you said, right? Beautiful. Wow, Sophia, thank you for your story. It's like so much more than so many of us have lived. So it's just a great, inspiring reminder of what's possible.
Thank you. And thank you for holding the space for me, even through the moments where I felt a little overwhelmed with emotions.
You got me emotional too, but it's just compelling. Like,
Yeah. Thank you for that.
Yeah, really appreciate it. Everyone, thank you for listening. And I know you've enjoyed this as well. I certainly did. Thank you again, Sophia.
Yeah.
Till next time, everyone.
Thank you for listening to the Wise Women podcast. You can find the book, Wisdom's Discovery, Finding Your Center at the Edge, on Amazon and barnesandnoble.com. And keep listening to the wisdom that your life is offering you.